Good morning, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar series. Today is December 8th, and today's webinar is Your Business is a Great Story. Are you telling it? Really excited about this one. For anyone that's just joining us for the first time, my name is Nick Fry, and I'm the Manager of Business Development with Tourism Nova Scotia. Tourism Nova Scotia is a division of communities, culture, tourism, and heritage. We work with communities and industry to attract visitors to the province and increase tourism revenues through experience and sector development, business coaching, marketing, and visitor servicing. And this webinar is recorded. So if if the webinar goes past 11 or if you have an appointment, you can always come back and watch the recording after the fact. If you find it really valuable and you want to share it with any of your industry friends, please do so. If you're interested in any of our other webinars, you can find them on our webpage at tourismns.ca/webinar-series. Throughout the webinar, we may discuss some links and resources that are available, and those will be shared after the fact in the email, so you don't need to worry about writing it down or checking it out during the presentation. Any good webinar presentation really is assisted by a robust Q&A. So we really encourage any questions throughout, and if you think of it after the fact, just send us an email. We'll make sure we get the question answered. Really excited about, so hopefully you signed up for this webinar through Digiport. Digiport is a partnership with Tourism Nova Scotia and Digital Nova Scotia, and it offers a one-stop shop for interactive services and educational opportunities to help tourism businesses bridge the digital gap. It also helps develop digital marketing skills and access professional support. So if you haven't signed up for Digiport, I would encourage you to do so. It's nsdigiport.ca. It's the only service of its kind in Canada, and it's really valuable to the tourism industry. So I encourage you to sign up for that. So today, we're really excited to have Leah Sanford here from the Family Knife. She's the team captain, cheerful motivator, and prioritization leader. Leah's worked with some of the country's top employers and largest organizations, and they also work with boutique businesses, creators, and consultants, and help them all communicate effectively and bolster their company's reputations and their community's reputations. Leah's born coach and teacher, and she never lets the joy slip away, nor her clients fall. Leah and the team, they work with entrepreneurs to help find their best customers and make sure that they help find what makes them enjoy their business the most, and then really what they love best, and then help structure that. So Leah can explain that much more eloquently than I can. I would encourage and ask Leah to join us now and share her screen. I'm really excited about today's presentation. It will be all available after the fact. So again, you can review it later, share it with a friend, and also really encourage a strong Q&A. So Leah, if you want to join and share your screen, that'd be great.
Hello, everyone, and good morning. Thank you all so much for coming. Nick, thank you for that fantastic introduction. So today we are here to talk about storytelling, and that your business, I am confident. I will admit I don't know you. I have not dug into your businesses, but I am confident if you've come and shown up this morning on this very bleak day, that you have a story bubbling deep down inside your business, inside your heart. We just have to find a way to get you confident to tell it. So that's what today is all about. I received a lot of great questions from you in advance. Thank you all so much. We're going to answer those as we go through, but please use the Q&A. We're going to be leaving a bunch of time at the end to really dive into the personal questions that you have around your own unique and beautiful stories. So to start this morning off, I'm going to jump into a story for you, and it's a story about beer. So transport yourself back to the year 1907, Middle America. This is a surprise and a twist for you. We are a young gentleman named Claude, and we work at an advertising agency, and we have been tasked with a somewhat unusual program of developing a marketing campaign for a beer company named Schlitz. Now, at the time, in 1907, they were sitting around position 6, position 7 in the market across the states. It's a good beer. People like it. We're on board, but there's nothing particularly fancy about it. Those who like it a lot, and the rest of us kind of move on. So what Claude decides is that he needs to understand what this is all about. Clearly there has to be a story in here somewhere, so let's go explore. So he sets up a factory tour visit with the leaders of the Schlitz Beer Company. And as he's going through, they're pointing out different tools and equipments and kind of explaining the process. And Claude is dazzled by what he sees. The mechanization and modernization blows him away. We've got 4 different filters happening for water purification, air purification, particle purification, and it's 1907. We have 4 different stages of bottle washing that happen so that we can keep this purity in the product safe and clean and crisp and beautiful as it goes through. And all of this is coming to Claude, and he's like, this is the story. It's the story of the product and the purity and the craftsmanship that goes into this. The Schlitz Beer executives are mystified by this reaction because this is simply how you make beer. This is how you make a good product. Everybody's filtering. Everybody is washing the bottles. That feels like an obvious step. And they don't see the appeal of this at all. This is just a Tuesday to them. And in that moment, we unlock one of the greatest marketing moments, because Claude points out that if you tell a good story about this, about your existence, your experience, your process, and you're the first to tell it, then the story is yours forever. No other beer company was talking about how they made the beer. They all jumped to the end and said, this is what you get. This is what it enables. Look how much fun you're going to have. Schlitz became the first company to talk about the care that went into it before you ever see it. And in that moment, we also uncover what today we consider inside and outside perspective. Neither party was wrong in thinking that there was a story here and that there wasn't a story here. It's simply the executives were too close to. They couldn't see the magic and mystique and novelty for the everydayness that they experience, because this is just business. And so often that's the case with entrepreneurs and small, passionate, family-run businesses, large businesses. You get inside perspective because of how much time you devote to your product and service, to your customer experience. You forget that nobody else sees that. Nobody else understands all the little pieces that go into making what you make. And so it's important to always take a step back and really give yourself an outside perspective to say, what is happening here? How are people talking about this? And pull out the whimsical, magical, marvelous moments that you might be taking for granted or not think are particularly interesting in the time. So let's all hold Claude in our hearts and our heads as we move forward this morning and really try to look at your business today with an outside perspective, because that's going to be part of the key to unlocking your story's success. So hello. Be remiss not to do another introduction of myself. I am Leah. Nick gave me a beautiful introduction and I really appreciate it. I am by trade a marketing strategist. That is what I do at The Family Knife. We are a boutique consultancy. And as Nick mentioned, we work with entrepreneurs of all shapes and sizes to help them really unlock who their best customers are. Who are those people who just get them, who value them, who appreciate the service, who would pay anything for it, who connect with the stories they're telling. And then we help the entrepreneur craft those stories in a way that feels right, that feels authentic to them, and that inspires them to keep showing up every day to do the marketing, to keep putting that joy out into the world, to really reconnect and love their business without ever having to feel like they're trying to sell something or they're trying to convince someone to buy. It's about bringing the joy back into it. So we kind of look at it from 2 angles of a structured joy and a joyful structure. And that brings me to my second role as really a joyful coach, because a lot of my work in the day-to-day is working with entrepreneurs to keep that motivation going, to find that outside perspective, to bring back the joy in the work, to see challenges as opportunities, and to mitigate, work around, or plow through any obstacles that might stand in the way. I'm also an entrepreneurship teacher through the Lab to Market programs. So I sit here today as a fellow entrepreneur with you, as a passionate advocate for Nova Scotia tourism and the wonders that is this province, but also as someone who teaches foundational principle pieces of entrepreneurship and how we can manage our ability to persist as entrepreneurs. So today, yes, all about storytelling. We're gonna get to that. 4 slides in, we will get to storytelling. But should you have to drift off, should an emergency arise, because we're all entrepreneurs, the job never stops, should something come up, please take this as the most important thing I will say today. The dilution principle. This is the idea, kind of Howard Gossage, a marketing legend, calls it disimprovement. The principle is very simple, and we all fall into the trap one time or another. And the idea is, whatever you are saying as your claim to come here, this is great, it's cheap, family friendly, pets available near the airport, beach is beautiful. Every time you add the word and, you disimprove the message's impact. Every single time you say healthy and delicious, it's less delicious and less healthy. Family friendly and affordable, we're sacrificing on the fun that's going to come with this. It is a psychological effect that happens in everyone's brain. The more things you add, the more skeptical we become. So as you go out building your story, as you go out doing your marketing, as you go out promoting your program, services, offerings, establishments, focus. Focus in on one thing each message. You might do 10 things. Brilliant. Love it. That's 10 different messages. Do not combine things. It is the dilution principle. You will disimprove your marketing message. So when it comes to our storytelling that we're going to do, we're going to talk about one thing to one person and move that along time and time again so that we can build the strongest, most compelling, most engaging story that we can, and we can avoid falling into the trap of disimprovement. So, what makes a good story? Here we are, storytelling. What even makes a good story? You might have thought of a story immediately rushed to mind. It might be a favorite movie, it might be a favorite book, it might be a favorite song. These are all ways we tell stories in Western culture. And so when we look at these things, if you take a step back, if you take an outside perspective, what breaks down into a great story are consistent themes. It's not always about the same person. It's not always about the same place. It's never about the same time. The conflicts, the struggles, the goals are all different. But what they have in common, what makes a great story and what will make your story great, is a central character that someone can relate to. There's one central character that moves us through this, that experiences highs and lows and has a goal and works towards it and ideally accomplishes it. But what they have that makes them relatable to us is some sort of human universal truth to them. There is a need deep within their soul that is what they are chasing to satisfy throughout that story. And that's where we latch in. Go to any Disney movie. Your central character has kind of a superficial layer of a want. They're trying to get from point A to point B, but there is a need burning in their soul that moves them forward. And what we connect to in that character, whether it's a robot moving trash or a princess singing to birds in the woods, is we connect to those moments of what they're yearning for. They are universal human truths of connection, of love, of belonging, of experience, of impact. So that's what makes a great story, when you can anchor it in that moment. And all of that is to say, you are not the central character of your own story. And that might be the most bummer news I tell you today, is that it's not you. You're not the central character. If you're writing a journal entry, if you're doing a documentary, sure, it's about you. But when you're going out doing your marketing story, your central character is your best customer. And you are all the context and support that helps them along the way. So let's break that down. When you look at story and the elements of a story, this really breaks into what we like to see as kind of 8 categories in a structure that forms out there. This is also kind of popularized by Dan Harmon in his story circle, where he puts it in a literal circle for you. So if we look at eight steps, those then break into, I like to see them as kind of 3 buckets that we move through. Our first bucket is the first 3 steps. This is all about our character. We have a central character. It is a normal day for them. When we first meet them, this is a typical Tuesday. They want something. This is kind of a high level, superficial, but not in a negative kind of way, thing they want. It could be for move to point A to point B. It could be get a new job. In this case, for you, it's probably they want a vacation. In marketing terms, this is known as the struggling moment. Bob Mesta popularized the idea. Brilliant mind out there in this, if you do want to Google that and kind of look at it. We look for these moments that trigger a need within us, that trigger a desire, a want, a motivation that's in us. This is not you. They don't want you, not yet. They want something kind of at the higher level of that. So we'll call that vacation. Then we recognize that what they have is a feeling of need. And this is where you shine. This is what Clayton Christensen calls the jobs to be done theory. This is a feeling of a deep down need that they might not even themselves be able to articulate, but you're going to tap into that because you are a brilliant creative mind running a wonderful business with a great story to tell. Phase 2, this is what I call the adventure phase, steps 4 through 7. We kind of bookend these with less than fun things. We got barriers on one end, we got trade-offs on the other, but we're going to work through this because our central character has to have an adventure to get to the adventure and then to move on. They have to have ups and downs as we move them through this. So we're going to get through barriers. We're going to have a journey. We're going to have success where they actually experience the wonderful thing that you take them through. Then we're going to embrace the costs and the trade-offs because perfection isn't real. Perfection is fake. What we're striving for are authentic, joyful moments that people can experience, and those naturally come with some lumps, bumps, and adventures along the way. And then our third phase is really the happy ending to our story. This is a new them going out. Our central character is the them, not you, your main character. They're going out and they're having a brand new story to tell, and you're part of that. So we could wrap a webinar here. Here's your 8 steps. Off you go. Fill in the blanks and write a story. But I'm going to stick around and we're going to break these down even farther so that we can really together work through what your story is going to look like. So I call this my, okay, Leah, but what about? So let's break it down. Central character, step 1. This is your best visitor. So if you've got a pen and paper handy, jot that down. What is the first thing that came to mind for you this morning when you think about your best visitor? This is someone who comes and experiences your facility, your product, your service. They just get it. They get it. They love what you have on offer. They really appreciate the value that you deliver. And they connect, and tell your story. They're out talking to their friends and family about how wonderful you are already when they go home. That's who our central character is. When we're looking at our various ways of finding this person, they might look a little different. They might surprise you. But this is where we get into our head that one person, because we're not going to disapprove things. We're going to find one person that we can make the hero of our story. And that's your best visitor. Okay, what are all these wants and needs these people have? This one person has a want. This was triggered by something in their life. They might have seen, say, an ad for a vacation. This doesn't have to be a Tourism Nova Scotia ad. Any ad could trigger this reaction in them. They might see a WestJet ad that says, get flights from Halifax to Paris for cheap. And they're like, don't really want to go to Paris, but vacation sounds good. They might see something for Disney World and go, can't get down to Florida. That's not affordable, but vacation sure would be good right about now. It could be the holidays. It could be their HR manager telling them they need to take some time off because they can't carry it into the new year. Whatever happens, we have a struggling moment that triggers a reaction that says, I want a thing. And you need to figure out what that thing is. For today's purposes, we will generally call that vacation. They also have a need. And this is what we spoke about just a moment ago, this deep down need that they might themselves not be able to articulate yet. But it's part of the want. Why do they want that vacation? What is driving them to take it now? To pick up, to travel, to go? That's the need that you need to uncover. This is where it really connects to a feeling they're going to have. This might be rest. It might be building connection with their family. It might be they need a thrill and excitement and fresh air. They want to see nature and trees and feel the cool breeze. They want to eat a lobster and try new food and experience a sea shanty in person at a kitchen party because they've dreamed of this communal connection, warm wood stoves, if that's the vibe they're going for. The need is what you need to sort out because that's where you're going to have your strongest connection point. That's going to find your universal truth that you connect all of your audience to this central character that you're writing about. On needs, important thing to consider, because a lot of the time, especially in entrepreneurship, especially kind of when we're looking at competing priorities and robust markets, we can think that we're competing with others, that they're choosing me or someone else. And that's not how I encourage you to look at it when you're writing your story in particular. When you're crafting this powerful story you're going to go out with, don't think about it as competing with someone else, either locally or nationally. What you're doing instead is helping a visitor select the best destination or activity for them. That's what your story does. It's one of the most beautiful truths about Nova Scotians, and a beautiful truth about Tourism Nova Scotia is we're here to help. We're here to help you have the best time possible, which means everyone who comes here is not necessarily the best customer for you. And that's a wonderful thing to wrap your arms around, because you only want your best customers who value you, who get it, and who love the story that you're telling, because they want to be part of this. So really kind of embrace this idea of, if you're telling a story, it's to be helpful, not to compete. The story is how you're going to connect with them. The story is how you're going to make a difference. So phase one, all about our character. We've got a central character. You've jotted that down. They have a want. We'll call that vacation today. So jot that down. That might change for you. You might find different information. We'll get to data later. They have a need. We're going to work on uncovering that one. A deep universal truth of what they're trying to do in their soul when they come here and experience your product or service. Phase two, the adventure. This is where we get into barriers. This is where we get into the journey. This is where we get into success and the costs and the trade-offs that come with this. So what on earth am I talking about? Barriers. These are the potential barriers that your central character could face when trying to get to you. Three types. We've got social barriers, we've got emotional barriers, and we've got functional barriers. And these are outlined again by the great Bob Mesto. So what on earth am I talking about? Social barriers. This is as simple as they're scrolling through their social media feed and everybody's in Greece, or all their friends are going down south, or everyone's suddenly shelling out top dollar to have a Disney World experience. And they're like, I was going to go camping with my family in Nova Scotia, and that made me super excited, and everyone's really jazzed. But what are my friends going to say? What questions am I going to get asked? Are my pictures going to be as good? These are social barriers that may or may not come to pass, but are a thought your ideal customer or your central character is going to have. There's emotional barriers. Will the family actually have fun? Will all of this work out? Are we going to reconnect? Am I going to feel recharged? Is this going to be worth it? These are thoughts they have when they're thinking about taking a vacation and really addressing that central need in their soul. And then there's just plain old functional barriers. Can we afford it? Do I have the time off? How on earth do I get there? Is there a pandemic? What about inflation? Is it storm season? These are all functional barriers. Who takes care of the pets? Functional barriers that we have to think about. We just simply usually call them logistics of travel. These are the functional barriers that someone has to overcome in order to get here and experience the wonders and delights that you have. You as a storyteller have a responsibility to think about these things in advance. It's not so that you can simply worry. There is a good chance that once you start sitting down and writing out what the barriers are, you'll get into a bit of a negative spiral. And those are okay moments. Pull yourself back out. Outside perspective is what we're going for here. Why we write these down is so that we can address them and help our central character and all of our best customers through the marketing, through the sales funnels, so that we recognize the barriers, can answer and address them, and help our people navigate over, around, under, or through any of those barriers that exist. The barriers are real, we must respect them, but we can absolutely work our way around them. Because my absolute most favorite quote of the year, this is my year of 2022 quote, obstacles are the raw materials for achievement. Oh, I love it. I absolutely love this idea. It's from Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach. Obstacles are the raw material for achievement. They're here. They're part of life. We deal with them every single day. You have traffic to get to the grocery store. That's an obstacle in your way, but they are the raw material for achievement. And when you flip that mindset on what a barrier is for your best customers, boy, howdy, does that story just unlock to magical things of how helpful you can be in getting them to have the best experience possible here. The best experience possible with your product or service. All part of the story. So that's our barriers to the journey. Crassly put, this is the part where they move into your purchase funnel, if that's how you like to think about things. When we talk about their journey, your job as the storyteller in the story is to smooth the journey along for them. It's not to make it perfect. It's not to clear out every single obstacle. It's to let them know about the obstacles, let them know about the potholes, let them know about the items so that they can be inspired and delighted. So this is about making it easy to buy, reserve, or book. It's about making it easy to plan and research, easy to share and get inspired and excited, easy to explain. So all of these things address the social, emotional, and functional barriers that we talked about in the previous step. And so this barrier step, you identify them. Smoothing the journey is where, as the storyteller, you help identify so they can zig and zag along the path. And instead of stumbling over rocks, they're frolicking down the way. So this is all about easy to explain. This is your story. This makes it so easy for them to then get excited and tell their friends and family, which makes it easy to share, to get inspired. They're able to hop onto social media. They're able to build a whole Pinterest board of what they want to do, move themselves forward and build that anticipation, which in and of itself is a joyful psychological experience. We don't spend enough time in anticipation, and this is all part of the anticipation of getting to your experience. Then we make it easy to plan and to research. This is where your story folds into your broader website. How someone lands there, experiences the story, falls in love, gets more excited, goes to buy, reserve, or book. Easy breezy to do. All of this ties together. You've identified the barriers, and you've then created little paths, little direction signage to help them move all around them. Okay, we're at success, the absolute best phase of everything, because they're here. They're here and they are loving what you have on offer because it is exactly what your story made them believe. That is what success is. Success is the moment where they arrive, they experience the wonder, magic, and delight of your product, your service, your space, your experience. And the reason it is so thrilling and stays with them is because all of that anticipation paid off. All of it translated into the joy. They got exactly what your story made them believe, and they feel so satisfied, so fulfilled. Epic success. Oh, the story's not done, because no story ends with nailed it, credits. We get disappointed. We need more to stories. That's how stories work. There has to be something that happens in here. Can't be too good to be true, which brings us to costs and trade-offs. The mysterious section that throws in there, then you're not expecting this one. We did barriers. We did journey. We should be good. Costs and trade-offs. This is about getting comfortable embracing the trade-offs. They're your superpower. Nothing will go perfectly, but you can absolutely have the perfect vacation. You do not have the power to control the weather. If you do, we're going to have a side chat. Very curious about it, but I'm guessing none of you have the power to control the weather. None of you have control over flights, roads, ferries, trains. So how people get here, how people move about things, that's out of your control. You cannot guarantee it goes perfectly, but through your story, through your experience, and through your commitment to your business, they can absolutely have the perfect vacation. So we are going to embrace those trade-offs that we have created because they are our superpower. I like to put this into a table. I literally have over here a giant, this little black line you see here is a full wall of chalkboard because I just end up drawing things all day long. And it comes into these tables. Okay, what about all these trade-offs? This is my no because column. These are all the questions that you regularly get asked and that you have a quick little moment where you get a little sinking feeling and you're like, oh, the answer is no. No, hope that's not a deal breaker for them. For your best customers, it's the best answer they could get. So your job is to not think about this as how you're telling them. It's how you're equipping your central character, your best visitors, to explain this to all their friends when they tell their stories, to make them proud of the trade-offs, embrace it and get it. So, are you close to the beach? No. Why? Well, we're a mountain retreat. We can't be close to the beach if we're on the top of a mountain. And the whole idea is you come here for the wilderness escape. The foxes and the deers are running across the lawn. The sunsets are out of this world. You will love it. It's the peace and quiet. That's your because. Brilliant answer, obviously. But instead of just kind of shutting off at no, we offer the because. Are you pet friendly? Sorry, no. We do that because we actually specialize in hypoallergenic spaces, and we are in a nature preserve. So having kind of domesticated pets is really upsetting to the local environment. Fantastic reason. We just want to make those points clear to people as we're coming through. Are you close to the airport? Nope, we're a pretty long drive from the airport, actually. But here's all the fun things that you can do and what you can expect and a playlist that you can have and how we can build that out. So they're never bad no's. These are the trade-offs that make our product or service or experience stronger. But as storytellers, they can be perceived as barriers to other people. So we want to make sure that when we're telling that story, we're pulling people in and equipping them along the way, because that's the final step. This person is about to hit the happy ending phase. They are about to go out into the world, telling all their friends and family a brand new story that you're part of. Someone's going to ask them one of these questions. You want to make sure your hero is equipped to give the best answer for you possible. Which brings us to the very last step in our story structure. Step 8, happy endings, new them, new story. And the absolute brilliant point of this step, they've come, they've overcome the barriers, they've experienced the journey. It hasn't gone perfectly, but it's been perfect for them. They experience your product, service, or space. Their soul is satisfied because everything you made them believe came true. They're so happy, they're empowered, they're refreshed, they're renewed. They go home, they explain this to their friends, and you become the central character in their story now. You're sending out into the world a fleet, a crew, an army of little storytellers, all with you as the central character now. All because you took the bold move to make somebody else the central character of your story, where you could support them through your experience. You set up a beautiful context. You shepherded them through the ups and downs. You delivered on that promise. You changed them. You satisfied a hunger within their soul, and they are better for it. And that's the experience you deliver. That's the story that you can tell. Goodness, Leah, I'm guessing you're thinking this. Goodness, Leah, good stuff. Where on earth do I find out this information? And the fantastic news is that you have it all already. But inside perspective is kind of casting some long shadows and we might not be seeing it. So let's take a step back and say, okay, what do I actually need? Start with your own data. Look at your website analytics. This is a little bit of where are people coming from, but I'd be more curious about what are they looking at? Where are they spending time on your website right now? Where might some functional barriers in your website data tell them or tell you about what's happening and what those patterns are? Look at your social media analytics. What type of content are people engaging with most? When are they coming in? Where are they coming in from? What do they like? What are they saying? What are the patterns and word choices you can find in comments and engagement moments that can give you some insights into who your best customers are, who this central character might be? And it doesn't have to be a real person. It can be an amalgamation of people to create the central character for you. But you're looking for those patterns in word choices, in language usage, in excitement, in questions that are coming in to help you craft out and find elements of what are these barriers? What are the needs? What was a trigger? Where were they before they came here? These types of pieces all help inform the story elements as you go through. Talk to the lovely people at Tourism Nova Scotia. So much data collected. They can absolutely help you. That's what this Digiport is all about. Talk to them. If there's missing gaps, if you're looking for trends, if you're looking to find out where ads are going, all of this information is available. You just got to ask. And they're super nice and happy to help. Talk to your customers. This is the customer interview. These don't need to be formal. They absolutely can be. You can do surveys, you can do polls, but you can also just chat. Talk to new guests. When you're chatting with them, make this casual, make this fun. You're in Nova Scotia and you're running a tourism business. Yeah, I'm guessing you're a chatty person. And so ask them, what brought them here? What made them decide here? How did they get here? Where did they come from in Nova Scotia? What else have they experienced before they got to you? Talk equally importantly to your returning guests. If you have people return year after year, quarter after quarter, season after season, whatever the case, talk to them about why. What is the secret little unspoken thing about you that makes them prioritize your experience or establishment over anything else they might do? These are the nuggets. And again, we're looking for the patterns in language that's coming through. How are they talking about it? How are they talking about their own needs and barriers? Then look at the reviews and testimonials. Again, best tip I can give you on reviews and testimonials is to take an outside perspective to the absolute extreme and don't do it yourself. Get a friend. Get your critical friend. The one who's like pretty okay to tell you look bad in that outfit, or you stumbled here, or your hair's a mess. That friend, that's the one to get to review the testimonials and the reviews. Don't feel you need to read TripAdvisor yourself. It's not for you, it's for the world. And because we're so close to our products and services, because we put so much of our blood, sweat, tears, and passion into this, mean things hurt extra. So if you can have another person, whether it's a team member, a family member, or a friend, go through your reviews and testimonials and just pull out the data that's important for you to make decisions. Is there feedback of a functional barrier that you need to fix? Are there patterns in what people love or why people might not be vibing on it? What you're looking for here is not just the praise and just the negativity, but you're looking for the customer fit. This is really weeding out who gets it, who vibes with this, and who just wasn't going to love the trade-offs that you've decided and embraced, who's just kind of the wrong fit. We like to think about in kind of our business, there's never a bad customer. There's never a bad product, a bad fit. And so the job becomes really spending time in the research and the analysis to figure out who the right fit is so your story can be crafted best for them. We're almost there. You're still not ready to write the story because now we're into writing story phase. What you want to do first, this is where this joyful structure joy that we really pride ourselves on comes into play. Two categories here. First, we're going to put some structure around this. This is going to be a joyful structure. You're going to like it. It's going to be fun. You're going to make it your own. This is where we compile the details. So build out your structure. Take these 8 steps, write them down on a piece of paper, literally flip it to landscape orientation, give yourself the full width, legal if it's even better. Write out your 8 categories of the story. We've got our character, we've got a want, we've got a need, we've got barriers, we've got journey, we've got success, we've got trade-offs, we've got happy endings. Then bullet point underneath those, the details of these. Who is my central character? What is their want? What is the need based on everything I've learned? What are the barriers? What are some I can think of? What are some that I've gathered from those customer interviews? What does the journey actually look like? What does success actually look like? What are the trade-offs we're making? What are the because reasons I can empower them with? And what does a happy ending them off in the world telling our story look like? Then, only then, do we start building in the whimsy, the magic, the delight, the story that goes with this. And if you find yourself with a full-on writer's block, which is completely understandable, this is not the hat you necessarily wear every day in your business. Start it off, as every classic Disney movie does, once upon a time. Literally start your story off with once upon a time, and then we move into our character, wants, needs, bump, 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 down the line. Then just erase once upon a time from the start of your story. If you prefer a more personal touch, you can start these off as though you're writing a letter to a friend. Yes, a letter to a friend. Dear Irene, today was amazing. Bob came, boom, 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 boom. And then we just erased, Dear Irene, today was amazing. And there's our story. And once we have our story literally written down, because it's this wonderful and wacky fact that psychologically, the more we practice writing things down, the clearer our thinking gets. And the clearer our thinking gets, the clearer our writing gets. And it's this beautiful virtuous cycle that you'll move through that will improve and strengthen your skills, capacity, and confidence, which is so important to good storytelling, your confidence in being able to deliver. So once we have this written down, then we can become the storyteller we were meant to be. We can unleash the creative within us and wander out into the world as a beautiful bird ready to go. And then we can get into a space, and this was one of the several questions came in advance. Thank you so much for those, around where do I tell this story? And I offer you kind of 2 options, 3 if you'd like to combine them. You've got a macro story that is the full 8 steps that takes us from beginning to happy ending, where they're out telling their story to other people. That's your macro story, covers all of it. But there's also the opportunity for micro stories or little vignettes that happen along the way. And these can be simply one element of the story cycle. One block comes out, or you could do a little behind the scenes, a little documentary style, a little fun fact that happens up over here. All of these little vignettes get peppered out across your marketing channels and together form the cohesive macro story that lives perhaps on your website or in a blog or a video or however you like to do that. So those are your opportunities. When I think of story, my favorite story, which I admit takes place in Prince Edward Island, but Anne of Green Gables, which in defense of tourism Nova Scotia, Anne, originally a Nova Scotian, and Lucy Montgomery studied at Dalhousie. So we've got Nova Scotia roots to a great tale. Anne of Green Gables, beautiful little story, originally written as vignettes in the paper. It was done as little chapters. So if you go through the book and you're reading it, you're like, these are all fun little stories that wrap up, but together create a beautiful narrative. It was by design. It's vignette micro stories. Powerful, powerful tool when you go out to actually tell these things. So consider that as you're moving forward to tell your story. And with that, I bring us to wonderful Q&A. I'm seeing some chat items come up. I'm seeing some Q&A come up, which is fantastic. And we will leave the rest of our time this morning to all of your brilliant questions. If I haven't gotten to something, let us know in the Q&A and we will jump in. Nick, back over to you.
All right, perfect. That was great. So we got a few comments here. I'm just trying to, let me see. So thank you for your energy. This has been such a great educational moment for me. This is for me, Leanna O. I had a question regarding the barriers step. I work for a film festival, and a big barrier we saw this year was a cultural shift to staying at home because of COVID. We knew this going into this year, and it still had a big impact on attendance. How do we address a barrier like this at the cultural level? Our new habits are all at home. How do we encourage our audience to push outside of their comfort zone? Thank you.
That is a fantastic, fantastic question. And so that really comes down to, I would encourage you to kind of sit down as a team as much as you can, if you have team members. If you don't, to kind of bring in some community members and volunteers or some of the film festival participants, and really kind of map this out in a brainstorm. So we've got the social barriers, the functional barriers, and the emotional barriers. Your functional barrier is the fact that there is an illness. Now it's flu season and cold season, and that's ripping through a province. So those are functional things we need to consider, and then look at the elements that you can control. So what can you do to physically help improve safety within the space to make people feel comfortable? That might be a conversation with public health to see if there's any other steps you can take, and that type of thing. Looking at emotional barriers that participants might have, talk to them. This is a great place for some customer interviews, to do some polls, to do some individual outreach, to ask, what would need to be true for you to feel comfortable coming back into this space? And that you can get a whole bunch of ideas. It's not a judgment call on any steps that have been taken, but giving the power back to individuals who you are trying to bring into a space, to ask them not to validate ideas you have, but to put them in a position of creative authority to say what needs to be true for your comfort levels. And then looking at those social barriers of, if that is a reality that people are going to stay home and want to participate that way, how can we make that as inclusive as possible? And does that actually unlock perhaps a new opportunity for accessibility? And what can we embrace and how can we champion that? Which then kind of moves us from the barriers portion, where we can kind of map all of those things out, into the trade-offs. And that's where you can have a lot of fun. And it can really be fun. It does not feel fun at this stage, but it can be fun once you get in there, to really embrace what these trade-offs mean, where you'll find the pride and enthusiasm behind the decisions you make, because your hands aren't tied anymore. These are your choices that you're empowered to make based on the information you gathered from your best customers and participants and directors and filmmakers that are part of this as well. So we can build as an inclusive and excited environment as possible. And you really might find some interesting new problems to solve and interesting new partners to help you solve those. But kind of take it from as outside a perspective as possible. Embrace the fact that you don't have answers to these questions now, and go hunting for them. Give other people you appreciate and want to participate the power to come up with solutions that would make them comfortable, and then you can evaluate what's possible for you. I hope that was helpful.
So is there any other questions? Again, oh, I got one popped up here, sorry. Can you show the 8 steps list again, please? That's from Sheila Van Scheck. Sheila?
Do you mind if I scoot back, Nick?
Oh, of course. You're still in control.
Nope. There we go.
And again,
all right, so it's 2 slides because it didn't help.
and again, this is the time. It seems like a really engaging group. So if you have any questions, now's the time. Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, so these are your first 3. Central character, they want something and they feel a need. And the need's really important, but I have underlined feeling because it's a sneaky one that they're not talking about. And then if we hop over to the next slide, you get your final ones, your barriers, your journey, your success. Oh, it's a wonderful one. Celebrate at that phase. The costs and trade-offs, and then it's the new them that goes out into this world. Other wonderful questions that had come in advance were around things like, where do I tell my story? Great question that I don't particularly have a direct answer for, because each of you will be different in where you tell your story, depending on where your best customers are. And again, that's where we come back to finding this information and finding your story elements. It's really important to go looking and take that outside perspective and dig into your data. This is looking at where are you getting the most engagement. It doesn't necessarily mean the most followers or the most likes that you're getting. Where are people chatting? Where are people sharing your things? Where are people communicating with you and you're able to communicate with them? Where are the conversations happening? And those are great places to start testing your stories out. You also want to really consider yourself, your own capacity, your own capabilities, your own interests in all of this. So where do you have fun? Because you're going to tell a better story in places you want to be. If you don't love blogging and you're just kind of maintaining a blog right now, and it's that thing that you're like, oh, I'm going to do it, not the best place to start. If you love Instagram Reels, start there. That's where your joy is going to be. And that's where you'll be more creative and comfortable trying things. These are not going to work the first time you necessarily go out with them. This is very much an iterative process. Stories get better over time as storytellers refine them, get comfortable with them. It's like breaking in a pair of shoes. It's a little awkward the first time out. But as you keep telling this story, as you make it your own, as you get comfortable in it, you really break it in and find the what works, what isn't, what works with certain audiences, where you want a hand gesture, where you feel a symphony's coming in to back you up with a crescendo moment. That's where you're going to come into your own. So give yourself the space and kind of safety to experiment in places that you enjoy actively participating in right now, where there's a friendly audience to try things out on. Those are the best places to start with your story. And then absolutely, please put it on your website. You own the channel. It's important that your stories live in places that you have full control over. And typically that is your website property as well.
So one question from Gwen was, will these steps be available at the website? So you can answer that question, but this webinar will be available on our website. And if you want to add anything to that.
Yes, and
Leah?
I think Jennifer was going to, or someone at Tourism was going to take these and make them into a lovely little worksheet for folks so that you can see the points broken down in one kind of handy takeaway sheet as well. But also the family knife is part of the Digiport collection of experts. So if any of you would like to have a longer chat about any of this, we're available for one-on-one conversations as well. Absolutely adore. From the list of participants that I saw coming in, I can't actually see your faces or names on this right now, but from the list of participants I was shared with before, love all your businesses. Would absolutely love to chat and help you tell some beautiful stories that you've got out there as well. If there's kind of a more personal angle that you're looking at, if there's something you don't want to talk about in the public forum of a webinar that's being recorded, completely understand. We can absolutely have those conversations offline as well.
Perfect. So Gwen said, thank you. This is from Elizabeth. I'm in the business of preserving our cultural heritage.
Ooh.
A few people seem to care, but many are apathetic or see this as unnecessary. As an unnecessary expense. It's like selling insurance. How do we get people to care and connect preservation with tourism?
Yep. Oh boy, having worked in insurance for a very long time, I feel that one deeply. the grudge purchase. I would say more people probably care than are making it publicly known. We have a very bad habit of taking things for granted as kind of a general community, especially when it comes to culture, heritage, the arts, and things like that. We assume that there are hardcore champions out there who are going to preserve this for us, and the impacts of its absence are not understood, and a rather negative way to go about promoting things. Taking the time to this is a space where story can be so absolutely beautifully powerful. And so in your case, you might have a couple different stories that you want to explore with, a couple different central characters based on who are your best customers and visitors and champions right now. And you might have a few stories once you kind of get those locked out there and feeling really good. You could branch into some stories which are a bit more of, I would call kind of an adventure genre, where we look at someone who's dipping their toe in, who's going through a discovery. What do you do for someone who's on the fence but curious? And tapping into that curiosity can be a really powerful tool. So when you look at the storytelling, often people, when it comes to arts, culture, history, and my background is, my educational background is in history, and so I admit to being way more of a fan than is helpful in this moment for someone who might be on the fence. They're often presented as facts. Like, isn't this an interesting fact? This is a snapshot of history and time. It's XYZ, this person did a cool thing, and now you know. And the thing about facts is they don't have feelings. And we are human beings wandering around craving feelings and connection. It is part of our nature and our makeup. And so what story does is kind of wraps context around a beautiful fact, figure, anecdote, or history bite for you. And so don't trust the history, the culture, the breathtaking display or exhibit to be able to do all the work on its own. It's one ingredient in the broader story that has to be told. And so the more you can pull out and create context around that connects back to an individual, again, going back to a singular person that you're trying to communicate with in time, that's where you can find these very kind of fun, lighter curiosity discovery moments that come through. BuzzFeed actually does a brilliant job doing a series of video series and YouTube shows around history and making it fun for the kind of Gen Z and kind of younger millennials side of things as a primary audience for them. But they change the outlook on history and they kind of flip it around and they make it accessible and they make it fun and they kind of make it lighter. Not all history can be made light. A lot of it is very important lessons that we should learn that have a lot of gravity to them. But how we set that context for discovery is in your hands as the storyteller. So when it comes to that side of things, story is so powerful, but it's a heavier lift for the storytellers to create that context going forward. So give yourself the time, give yourself the space, and start from a place of believing that more people care than they're necessarily demonstrating right now. You might have a harder time, but a greater reward in tapping into those feelings deep, deep down.
Sorry, that's great. I just realized I'm not muted and I just cleared my throat. So I apologize to all you because I'm sure that was annoying. All right, so we have another follow-up. Do these 8 steps work if our central character is another business?
Yeah, totally. And
Okay.
so that's a flip answer. Yes, totally they do. Don't look at these categories and don't look at these steps as kind of like hard and fast, Leah chiseled them into rock, thou shalt not move past what these are kind of guides. These are categories you're working within. So if it's an individual or an individual organization, play around with it and get the vibe for it, but don't let yourself get too boxed in by anything. You're going to make them your own. Each and every one of you, these 8 steps will look a little different for each of you as you create your own unique stories, but this totally works if it's an organization.
You know what? That's perfect. Everyone's thanking you for your really thoughtful answers as well. So and for the uplifting session. So I think that you're really living your your positivity that you talk about at the start. So we had one question, which is somebody said, I don't see the Family Knife as a one-on-one opportunity. And so that's good. So that means people are interested.
Well,
So Leah and the team there are going to get connected and make sure they're on the one-on-ones soon. Like we're going to work on, I mean, they're going to work on it, Digital Nova Scotia and the Family Knife. So they will work on that. And hopefully we'll put a push on that. So anyone that found value today, and I can tell there's a lot in the call, this is a service that Digiport offers. And again, that's in collaboration with us and Digital Nova Scotia. That is a no cost to you, but don't worry, the Family Knife does get paid for it. So it's a win-win, I would say. It's a really strong program. And, I don't think there's enough uptick on it. So I would just, take that opportunity. So, but still, if there's any more questions, I'm just seeing.
And if you're looking to get a hold of us in the meantime, you can find us on LinkedIn at The Family Knife, and you can also email us. We're hello@familyknife.com if anyone would like to touch base in the meantime.
Okay, perfect. Somebody said, funny you used a rock analogy. I sell stories about rocks. So thank you, Leah.
I love it.
Yeah, that's happenstance right there. That's from Louise Leslie.
That's so fantastic.
So I think that's, love the energy. Thanks so much for this uplifting session. And then Jennifer said they're going to do they're going to do a tip sheet and post it with the recording and also post the presentation slides. So just a lot of really valuable information. So unless a question has popped up since I've been talking, I don't see any. I'm sure we could keep you on here all day, but let me just try and take the screen back over. Leah,
absolutely.
As you know, this is my biggest fear in life is to
I left my screen up.
Yeah, you did a great job. So I'm going to take back over.
I will say thank you all so much for coming out today. I really appreciate this. It's so fun to see so many of you out here. I love all of your questions. I really appreciate this. I believe that you are all going to be brilliant storytellers, and I cannot wait to see those stories come to life. The most important thing to do is to believe in yourself and to make this a fun process. And the more you can have fun with it, the better story that you'll tell at the end of the day. So go be magical and tell your story far and wide.
Oh, thanks so much, Leah. Very inspiring. Thank you. So I'm going to now take back over. Let's see what happens here. Oh, look at that. Right where we wanted to be. All right. Thanks, Leah. Have a good day.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Well, so that was such an excellent presentation from Leah. And again, you can go back and review that if there's anything that you want to see again, or share it with your friends in the industry. So our next webinar is going to be on Thursday, January 12th. It's at 10. So it'll be a Thursday at 10. Hook 'em and book 'em online booking presented by Halo Branding. So this is going to be a really exciting workshop, and please sign up again through Digiport. And to hear about today's webinar, future webinars, any projects or any kind of relevant information we share, really encourage you to sign up for our news and resources newsletter. So that's on our website at tourismns.ca/ca-resources. And it's on the screen here as well. You can see recordings of all of our previous webinars on our website, tourismns.ca/webinar-series. So they're all there, and scroll through and see any that may be relevant to you. Our digital content marketing program. So this was just launched, and this will help you to partner with Tourism Nova Scotia to capture compelling photos or videos or deliver custom digital marketing campaigns to promote your business or community online. So the applications are Friday, January 6th, so a little under a month. And you can find the information on our website. If you go to tourismns.ca, you can go to programs, and digital content marketing program will be there. January 6th is the deadline. So again, how you would know about that program and anything else is our news and resources section. I already talked about that. You can find us on Twitter at tourismns. LinkedIn, we are Tourism Nova Scotia. Our consumer website where we push all of our potential customers is novascotia.com. Our corporate website is tourismns.ca, and you can email us any ideas for future webinars, any questions on today, tnsbusiness@novascotia.ca. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.